Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Read at Midnight. I'm Allison, a romance author and reader.
And I'm Caro, a romance blogger, reader, erstwhile, eventual writer.
One day, one day you will read Caro's works, her long form works. You can read her short form works on Threads. This is the podcast where we talk about the romance novels that make us want to stay up all night reading and the romance tea that keeps us caffeinated all night long too. Because today we are talking about something that has popped off recently in Romancelandia.
So this is something that I have been. It fascinates me because it kind of crystallizes everything that I get annoyed by, which is to say men, women who refuse to decenter men. And I actually also find the term centering and decentering men a bit annoying because I think that people overuse that, but in this case it applies. And just like book talk bullshit, because I was discussing this with a friend last night and she was actually like, it's interesting, like she'd heard of it, but she hadn't seen everything. And she was like, I've never seen him on my page. And I was like, I really haven't seen him either. And she was like, it's probably because even though he has over 300,000 at this time of recording, followers on Instagram, his TikTok following is most likely, I haven't checked. I don't keep TikTok on my phone anymore. It sounds like his TikTok following is bigger and more interactive, and he posts the stuff that like people are really into on TikTok. And by no means, TikTok users, BookTokers, I'm not saying that you are less intelligent. I am saying that there is a community level there that I don't think is quite. Don't worry, there are a lot of weird people on Instagram, but I don't think the community is
weird
quite
people
the
everywhere.
There are weird people everywhere, yeah. But I don't think that the two communities are quite the same in terms of like how fandom is conducted, and that's just because TikTok is TikTok and Instagram is Instagram.
Yeah. I think it's changed in the last like 9 months since the like TikTok USA ownership. Cause I do think, I mean, myself included, like a lot of people jumped ship off TikTok. And so like who was left was a certain kind of user who obviously does not care about that stuff. And that's not a judgment statement either way, listener. Like I'm perfectly aware that the Zuck is watching me on Instagram too. Like I'm aware I'm being surveilled everywhere.
Yeah, there's no it's just a cultural difference between the two things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not better or worse, just different.
Yeah. But do you want to give an overview of what is currently happening for everyone who is not chronically online?
Yes, I just that hurt. I just checked. I just checked what was happening right before I got on here. And this all started like within the past 48 hours. Essentially, and I think that I can use his URL without anybody getting into trouble because it's all out there.
We can also say that like allegedly. We're applying a big allegedly to everything that we talk about in this episode. Big
allegedly. I know nobody who is involved in this personally. This is all alleged. His username is, I have struggled to pronounce this, PB Squammer. I don't know.
I say it's Squammer in my head.
Squammer. It's Squammer in my head. I'm like, is it? I don't know. I think it's funnier as Squammer. I think of like Sasquatch. But PB Squammer 1. He is
PB stands for, I learned, it stands for pretty boy. That's not his initials.
It does stand for pretty boy, and that is important to this story. Okay, it does.
Continue.
Whether or not you find that to be accurate is entirely up to you. All God's children. He is a cis presenting, I don't know him, white man, het presenting, and he essentially, from what I can tell, has gained a following over the past however many since Lights Out started being big by Nevessa Allen. A book, by the way, that I have not read, so I have no context there. I've heard really fun things. I haven't read it.
I have, so I can't give context, but continue.
Essentially, he blew up because I think that he's according to his recent apology video, it all started when he went into Barnes & Noble, saw ACOTAR, read it, got into romantasy and dark romance, two very different things, but sure. And he basically started creating content around those two things. And but his lights out stuff is really, which is funny because I realized I've been hearing things about this man without knowing who he was for months because of Lights
Mm,
Out. I heard grapeviney stuff about him.
okay.
And so he was creating content around Lights Out. He was, doing the whole thing that we've seen quite a lot of in recent years, wherein a random cishet, again presenting guy, will, usually white, will maybe do a reading or dress up like a character, cosplay, and
Mm-hmm.
really take off. Often with, I think that I put it on threads, like they will frequently, in my experience, they'll do a little like, it'll be something like a spicy line, or they'll often they'll
Mm-hmm.
mouth along to the audiobook narration, which I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that seems like a cell phone, because you're basically saying like, yeah, I need Teddy Hamilton or Jacob Morgan's voice to make me seem sexy. And I'm like, fair, but a bit of a cell phone.
Probably. There's a reason they have
Yeah,
the job.
exactly. There's a reason. Those are, let me put those, I checked, mark, both of those dudes right now are marked safe from this scandal. And if they are ever not, I will be very upset, because those are two of my faves.
That will
But
cause a
so
real scandal.
that, oh God,
Yep.
Teddy Hamilton, please don't do this to me in the year of our Lord
Teddy Hamilton,
2026.
I stay in your cave, record the audiobooks, and then leave and just let no one be an enigma and a mystery, and you will never go out
Yes.
of fashion.
Do your audio brewery thing. I'm so good with it. But so they'll do that, and then they'll like often be like, and then there will be a slowed down version of a song, a beat drop, and then they'll do a weird little transition, and then suddenly they're like, I don't know, choking out the camera, posing, like doing the
Mm,
whole blue steel type of thing. And so that's the type of thing that he was doing, from what I understand and from what I've seen.
yeah.
And he was signing copies of Lights Out, a book that he
Mm,
did not write, that were
no.
in Avesta Allen's. And he essentially, this all came to a culmination in the past 48 hours, because he posted a video, real off the cuff, in which he said he was reaching out specifically to small authors, so like indie authors is what we're
Mm-hmm.
thinking. And he was saying that basically he wanted to make money off of making content, and he doesn't read books with his eyeballs. So he was like, send me a free audiobook and I will listen to it, and then I will give my honest opinion. So this is not going to be like positive or negative, doesn't matter. You give him a $200 deposit just for reading it, and then
Yeah.
he will give you a 3-minute video review, which is an additional $800. So $1,000 total for a review that is 3 minutes long, that could be trashing your book for all you know, and you can do what you want with that. And he just thought that was a fair deal. Essentially, it was $1,000, and because he broke it down to about, quote unquote, 13 hours of work, which is both an interesting amount of transparency about how little time you're going to spend on it, and a quite a value. 13 hours. I think somebody broke it down to about $75 an hour.
Yeah, that's still crazy. Like,
Yeah, that's
it's
crazy.
still
That's
crazy hourly rate.
that's a quite a value of his own work. I
Yeah.
should say, yeah, he is valuing his own work very highly. That is not a good value.
And to be clear, listener, like that is illegal.
Yes, that is illegal.
Soliciting pay, like federal law, FTC, which is the Fair Trade something, I think. Whatever they regulate
Fair Trade Commission. Yeah,
commission, via Fair Trade
yeah.
Commission in the United States. It's also probably illegal elsewhere in the world. Like I don't know the specific
It's
governing
probably more
bodies,
illegal in other parts of the world than it
right?
is in
But
the
I'm
U.S. Me
sure
knowing
like
as an American.
Europe, yeah, I'm sure
Yeah,
Europe and
yeah.
Canada and like other parts of the world like also
I'm
have
worried.
things that make this
Mm-hmm.
illegal. Um, but you are not allowed to solicit money for a review. You just can't. You
You
can't pay
can't.
for a review. You can't accept money for a review. You can accept a like complimentary copy of like the book and like that's it. So that's like what like stuff like NetGalley is for, where like you get a
Yes,
free
yes.
copy and you can or you cannot post a review and it's entirely up to you. And like
Yeah.
you can't pay for reviews.
Correct, correct. And you can pay for promotional content. like any other, business owner, but it
Mm-hmm.
cannot be a review. It's got to be like, like that's what when he was saying, honestly, like the thing that he really like screwed himself over on, like it was always condescending. It was always a ridiculous ask. It was
Yeah.
always because during all this, he also was like, I'm bored. I don't have anything to read. And it's kind of like, okay, weird that you're also just saying like, fill up my TBR, also pay me. But it was always going to be a ridiculous ask and condescending. But when he said it was a review, that changes things because if he had just said like, pay me to feature your book
Yeah.
in my random stack, or pay me with a disclosure, pay me to do one of my
Right.
cosplays being sexy or whatever, that's fine. And it's also fine for influencers. Like, nobody's shaming influencers for doing legal promotional content that is fully
Yeah.
disclosed. Get your bag. Nobody's judging.
Yeah.
And nobody's judging authors for paying for that, to be clear.
No, like that makes complete that's completely
Yes.
reasonable. Like we live in a world
Yes.
in which the kind of organic reach that influencers have is beating like anything that a TV ad or like a billboard's going to have.
Yes.
Like influencers have a lot of power and it completely makes sense to use that and for them to be able to monetize their hard work. But yeah, you
Yes.
have to disclose. You have to say I am being paid. Even again, even on those like NetGalley reviews, even if you get just a free book and that's it, and there's no payment, and it's just here's a free copy of the book, you still are supposed to say, I received a free copy of this book in exchange for an honest review.
And a quick tip to everybody. I actually never did this on Amazon, and it's still very hard for me to review books on Amazon, like art copies. If you're reviewing on sites like Amazon, even if you say, I got this book in exchange for a review, that word exchange, it implies payment to their filters, their bot filters, and you can get
Mm,
banned. That is how sensitive this is that even like the term exchange, which people use innocently. But that's how like tricky this is, and that's
I
how
didn't know
legally
that.
sensitive this is.
Yeah.
Oh, I know so many people who've gotten their Amazon accounts flagged
Wow.
by the bots just because they say I got this in exchange for a review. So you should always say if you're ever doing this, best practice is to say thank you for giving me this copy, all the opinions are my own,
Yeah.
basically something like that. So yeah, that was a problem. And a lot of authors and readers responded very negatively. Well, actually, I should say mostly authors and audiobook narrators. A lot of readers who I think did not know who he was responded very negatively, just justifiably so. What I find interesting is how many people, readers who were fans of his, didn't not only didn't respond that negatively, but now that he has recently, as of today, put out, I guess you could call it an apology. It was a more of a I messed up. I don't know that I
Yeah.
heard like a real apology, but I guess that's subjective. A lot of his fans seem to be like, "Oh, you're right. Sorry, good." Which is part of what really made me want to talk about this because I think that a lot of the times we say, oh, like these dudes, they messed up, or oh, this one person messed up.
Yeah.
But the thing that made me go, oh, this is like really sort of like indicative of a whole problem is that an event that disinvited him was called the Book Boyfriend Bash.
Yeah.
They disinvited him. They did originally ask people to donate to a GoFundMe because they had paid him 3 grand to show up, and they wanted
Insane.
to, yeah, they wanted to cover that money. A lot of authors pointed out that they not only do not get paid to go to those things, but that they have to pay a table fee, and then they
Yeah.
have to pay for their own travel expenses, everything like that. So he got paid 3 grand to go to the Book Boyfriend Bash. He does not write books. He does not
Mhm.
do graphic design for books. He is just like a dude. He is no different than like you or I are in terms of like
Yeah.
just it is just you are quote unquote book fluencing if you want to call it that. And so I just thought that it was we're having an interesting discussion in the book space about the idea of like essentially the book boyfriend being co-opted by these largely straight white guys
Hmm.
who are monetizing it and who are walking through what I would call a door that many largely female fans have opened because you will let them get away with anything. You will give them money for things when they have not made anything. But if a female author does not smile right at a convention or doesn't sign your book right or doesn't like say that you're the most wonderful, splendiferous person ever for giving their book a single read, or says that they would really rather you not pirate their books and fuck off, suddenly she should be canceled and you don't want to read her anymore. But these
Yeah.
guys can act like complete assholes, and in some cases, engage in truly like this guy. He was being, in my opinion, a bit of a dick, or a lot of a dick. But there are men who have engaged in very seriously wrong behavior and have expressed extremely bad views politically that are misogynistic, racist, homophobic, but they still get like 10 and a half chances. You know what I mean? Like they're still
Mm-hmm.
working. So that was kind of
Yeah.
like what I wanted to talk about, both like the ridiculousness
Yeah.
of this and also like the idea that like basically a lot of people have turned these men into their book boyfriends and are
Mm-hmm.
essentially monetizing their own. It's like you're paying them to embarrass you, in my opinion. So, sorry.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be not a girl's girl today.
No, yeah, I mean, it's like that. It all goes back to the like more general discussion of like parasociality, right? And how like
Mm-hmm,
we all feel like we have these relationships with people that we have never met. And like sometimes you do
mm-hmm.
genuinely have a relationship with someone who like you've only spoken to online, but most of the times you don't. And how a lot of bad actors, usually men, try to exploit that. It is interesting because like specifically in the that it's like lights out, because so listener,
Mm-hmm.
lights out is it's like it's not, I wouldn't say it's a dark romance. I guess it's kind of a romantic suspense. Like there is murder and like he does like break into her house, but it's like kind
But
of
it's funny, right?
consensual.
Isn't it kind of
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
like
like a little bit
funny.
lighter?
It's
Yeah, like that Bryn Weaver category. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bryn Weaver, but honestly, like tamer, I would say, than Bryn Weaver, who is like serial killer romances listener. If you haven't read, we did do an episode on her first book, so you can listen to that. But Lights Out is the male main character who is the book boyfriend that all these people have evidently like imprinted on with PB Squammer, whatever the fuck his name is. PB Mustache Boy, White Boy of the Month.
Pretty boy
Um,
Squammer one.
um, the hero in that book, so the heroine has like a kink for like mask talk, which is a real thing where there are men like separate from romance. There are like creators who go mostly on TikTok and like they wear weird masks and they like there's like music and they like act out scenes and like it's an interactive thing, whatever, to each their own. Like I would say it's like maybe like ASMR kink adjacent, like that kind of, like the ASMR videos, it's like the popular girl scratches your head.
Yeah, 100%. I think that makes sense. And I do want to clarify, there is no judgment. I love a mask. I didn't even know that mask talk existed. I was just raw dogging it,
It
looking for things
yeah.
in the wild. Wow, wow.
Yeah, so the hero in that book is a member of Mass Talk, and the heroine is like a fan, but she like doesn't know that they're the same person, right? Like, and then so like she's commenting about how like she wants him to break into her house and tie her up, and then like he's like, well, that's actually consent, even though she doesn't know it's me. So I will break into her house and tie her up. And it's all fun, and
Okay,
it's a
that sounds
romance.
fun. Yeah, it sounds
But
fun.
that's the character, and I do think it's interesting that
Josh, is
it's
that
kind
it?
of
Is that what his name is?
what?
Sorry, I've seen a lot
Josh.
of people talk about
Yeah, I
Josh.
think
Yeah, I've seen
so.
that.
That
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
right.
yeah.
But I think it's interesting that this is happening around a creator who is cosplaying like another creator. Like that there's like it's
I
like
had no
social
idea.
media like exception. um
Wow.
and it's like a kind of like the real world of like when like I think social media like in books is like so different, social media in fiction, in movies as well. I mean, like I feel like it's like a general complaint like when you have social media in like TV shows and like movies, like most people, especially like younger people, would be like that was stupid. Like it's like always the most
Mm-hmm.
critiqued part. So like there's such like a separation between like the fiction versus the reality, and like this is, I think, the example of like, no, we don't actually want like you don't actually want someone like Josh in real life, because he's actually this guy who does skeevy things like this.
Oh, this makes so much more sense to me. That like this was especially like it I will admit, I really had no idea. I thought this is where I was with Lights Out. I thought he just like was breaking into her house without invitation, and I was like, yeah, seems like something that people would like. Okay, like I get it. Like,
Is like she's not specifically invited. She's like commenting on a thirst trap, not expecting the guy to like actually know where she lives and like know her, have interacted with her in real life. So like,
I'm somehow see. This is the thing. This is one of those books where they're like the pro clutchers are like, this is encouraging bad behavior, and I was like, I thought it was so much worse and was like light shit, dark romance rom-com. Like, okay, well,
no, it's a lot less dark. And then like there's like a serial killer in it, but they like work together to take down the serial killer.
oh, I thought you were
They are not
once
the
again.
serial killers.
I was like, work together with the serial killer. Okay, like that was
No,
okay. This
no,
is
no. They work together to take down the serial killer. So like,
okay. I guess if that's what you're into, that sounds cute.
whatever.
But
Guess
yeah,
it's
whatever.
good. The serial
Yeah, I
killer in this one
guess.
deserves it. He's not like Bryn Weaver's serial killers, where like he's a cool guy who just kills sometimes.
Okay. Okay. Whenever. Well, I guess
But yeah, that's the context for Lights Out.
that's an additional. That is an additional layer. But I think like, I think that. So I think that like what I was thinking of when I was comparing this is it reminds me of how a lot of people have also over-identified audiobook narrators with their characters, have like essentially turned them into book boyfriends. And we can
Mm-hmm.
say that like there are multiple. I can think of three off the top of my head. Two for sure. One was a recent scandal, and I don't know
Oh.
how legit it was. But several audiobook narrators who have been there have been allegations, all allegedly of sexual misconduct, of
Mm-hmm.
again, really negative and bad political views that are misogynistic and terrible and racist. But when I was like before this started, I was like, let me see if anything has happened with those narrators recently. I was thinking of the most recent one, looking up specifically his allegations to be like, am I missing anything? And the most
Yeah.
recent, when I checked Reddit, the most recent things that showed up were not any new allegations, but all these women, and I'm not just talking, I looked in dark romance subreddit, romance book subreddit, the one for Why Choose that's not called Why Choose. There were several different threads in several different subreddits where it would be like, I love this guy. What do you guys think? And like the poster originally clearly did not know what had happened. And you'll see like a rundown of like everything this person has been accused of, which again are serious allegations.
Yeah.
Not just by the way sexual misconduct, but also like sort of like messing with people's money in a nonprofit situation, like bad business, like really just like overall,
Not a good
but
guy.
not a good guy. So many comments just upvoted being like, well, nothing's proven, and like at the end of the day, can you like there's so many actors who are bad people, and there's so many, and I just thought like I can't like something I basically saw the same sentiment in different words being repeated over and over. I just can't go without his books. And first of all, not his books.
No.
Second, you can always refuse to do that. Also when it's an audiobook, it's especially bothersome to me because I'm like, if one of my very, 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 very top five favorite authors was revealed to be a horrible person, I can't lie, that would be hard for me. That would be rough. It would suck. I'm sympathetic. But when it's an audiobook narrator and like you literally could just like you still have access to the text because it is not his book. It is the author's book, almost always a woman. And so many people being like, well, really, if we don't listen to this narration, isn't that kind of like not benefiting the author, even in cases when the author has publicly said, please don't listen. I detach myself from this person. And like, as soon as I legally can, I will
Yeah.
be getting these re-recorded. Or in situations where you can look it up. And a lot of this guy's audiobook narration deals, he got a big chunk of the royalties and the authors got comparatively very little. So, and this is the same thing, even with this PB Squammer guy. I saw people being like, well, I love Lights Out, so I don't want to. And it's like, you can enjoy Lights Out without this guy.
He's not, he doesn't even narrate Lights Out.
He doesn't even narrate Lights Out.
In fact, I'm pretty sure it's Teddy Hamilton.
I know Teddy Hamilton did it at the very minimum of the second one. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Teddy Hamilton has narrated an Avesta Allen one because I saw people being upset about him narrating one because they didn't think that his voice was mean enough, and I was like, "You leave him alone." It's like,
You leave to, oh no, it's Jacob Morgan, who is
Jacob
another
Morgan.
guy
So,
who was
so
another also very common. He did Priest,
yes,
actually.
yes, he did Priest. He did Priest, and Teddy did. And the reason why I'm so attached to Teddy Hamilton right now is he narrated the audiobrary versions of the new Camelot series as Embry, who is my
Yeah.
favorite. Embry Moore is my favorite romance hero of all time, and let me tell you, Teddy Hamilton knocked it out of the park. And so far, based on everything I've seen and heard, he seems to be nice. Disclaimer: I don't know him. He could be a monster. I hope not. Again, would be very sad for me.
The only controversy I've heard around Teddy Hamilton, and I do think this is relevant here because I think it's really interesting and it kind of speaks to like how people want to, going back to the idea of like centering men, even in like these woman dominated spaces like romance, and even when like the literal author and like arguably the main character of the book are women. The only controversy I've ever seen around Teddy Hamilton was not anything Teddy Hamilton did. So, reassuring everyone, this is not, I'm not about to like ruin anyone's image of Teddy Hamilton. Was people complaining that he was too quote unquote ugly, that
Oh,
like
I remember
his
that one. Yeah.
face didn't match, it didn't match. And I'm, again, this is heavy quotes. I am not
Yes.
making any sort of comment on Teddy Hamilton's appearance. I think that is
Yes.
so below, so outside of like anything that we should be worrying about
And
when it
also,
comes
I've
to
seen his face. I disagree very strongly, just to be clear.
yeah,
But
listen, he's
also, people
he's
are messed
fine.
up.
Like he's not
Yes,
George
he's
Clooney, but nobody's
he's
George
a dude.
Clooney.
He's a dude. Nobody's, and also like audiobook narrators, literally not their fucking job.
Right. Like
Not
literally
their job.
not
Like,
their job for you to see their face.
yes,
uh
yes.
but that's the only thing that I've seen. But it was like, and
Mhm.
it wasn't just him. Like I think people were kind of having like a general like
A discussion about all
when
the
you
guys that they found to be uggos.
yeah, when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
find
yeah.
out your favorite audiobook narrator is like ugly TM, like whatever. And it's like, but okay, but like why does it matter?
Why does it matter?
Why would you even want, why do you need to picture the audiobook narrator? Like why do you even know what he needs to look like? Why aren't you
No,
just picturing the character? Like I
right,
and I say this as
right.
someone who like is not like, I know everyone has different levels of how much they like create images in their minds. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, and I say this as someone who is like a character description is like if someone has like blue eyes and black hair, it's like a blob, a tan blob with two blue blobs and a black blob on top. And like that's how I picture the character. So like
I'll be completely real with you. 9 times out of 10 for me, if they're like the guy is a white dude, he's hot, he has this color hair, he has this color eyes, and an 8-inch dick, I imagine Dimitri from Anastasia, but with all of those things
and
attached.
that's fair. And that's
That's
so
fine.
valid.
That's essentially it is. It is. I cannot. It's not intentional. It is literally what pops into my brain. I'm like, oh, that floppy hair. There he goes. And then they're like, he has a buzz cut, and I'm like, fuck,
No,
I've
he
got to
doesn't.
rearrange some things. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
You're like, no, he's got the bangs in front.
He's got the bangs, the hair. Like, what's flopping into my face? Like, well, come on, please. Like, come
Yeah.
on. But no, like, I think I agree with you when I remember that. And actually, I didn't know that it was. I didn't see his name dropped, but I could tell from the authors responding that first off, I could tell that it was him. Second off,
Yeah.
I could tell. Hopefully, as far as these authors know, these authors seem to know him well enough to be going pretty hard to bat, which I think is a good thing. That
Yeah.
indicates at the very minimum that you are good to work with and these women
Yeah.
feel like you're a good enough person to hit for you, you know?
Yeah.
And that's really what should fucking matter. What should matter is that they're good at their job, they're good to work with, they treat the authors who pay them a lot of money often with respect. And that's your this book boyfriend idea. I always have had a problem with the original concept with or what I think of as the original concept of book boyfriend, which is that these heroes, we've talked about this before, but like these
Yeah.
heroes have to be great guys and they have to be perfect and they have to be as if they're your boyfriend. But this takes it to another level to where it's like, I actually would say, in the case of Teddy Hamilton, what I find it disturbing that you think you need to have this actual man who is playing a role just with his
Mm-hmm.
voice. You have to have his physical, like that's what you're suggesting is that he needs to be
Mm-hmm.
fuckable for you physically. And I think that there's a level to which women some women, not all women, have, I don't know what it is, because I'm like, we're still pretty, the oppression is still happening, y'all. I don't know if you're aware, but like, we're not exactly equal rights in it out there. You know, some of us are certainly more privileged than others, but there's just, it falls into this idea of, well, it's okay if I do it. You know, it's okay if I'm an utter creep. Because imagine if a man came out and said, this
Mm-hmm.
audiobook narrator, this woman, like, I hate doing the what if the genders were reversed, but in this case I do think it applies. Imagine if some dude was like, I looked her up and she's like a butterface, and
Yeah.
I need her to be hot to match her voice, because essentially I am imagining, I'm fapping to this woman's voice. Like, I am imagining or close to it.
Yeah.
And I just, you need to step outside. You need to be like a kind human being in general. First of all, don't talk about people's appearances in that way. But you also need to like look at yourself and be like, are you just like an actual, like, is that who you want to be online? Do you just want to be like a gooner, essentially? Like, I don't like that term either, but like, are you really, is that what you're gonna be? Is that you're fighting on, you're dying on a hill over the fuckability, the visual fuckability of an audiobook narrator?
Yeah.
You know, or you're putting these dudes like this PB Squammer guy on more of a pedestal when he has not done any sort of art to do with this. He has not written it. He has not designed the cover. He has not edited it. He has not done audiobook narration. But you're gonna come to bat for him and then say, get upset that like narrators aren't the exact physical appearance that you want. You know, like
Yeah.
that's,
No, it's
uh,
crazy.
no, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing. Like, that's what
Yeah.
makes the community look bad, to be honest.
Yeah. But let's talk. I want to dig more into the ideas. The white cishet male like influencers coming into spaces and automatically being given like a leg up. Well, I was just sort of thinking about this in the context of like not just like this man who has not done a creative thing other than just like lip sync to like stuff. I don't know. I've never seen any of these videos. I have no idea who this man is. I
He's the
don't I
cosplayer.
don't come
Yeah.
into a lot of contact with any of these men that ever have these scandals, quote unquote. But you know, we see someone like him, and then like earlier this year, we there was like an Australian creator, I think. At least he had a hot accent, who got like a, you know, $500,000 deal, like book deal to write a romance on a book that he hadn't even like started writing. And it's like, why are we giving this money to this man just because he has like a big TikTok following? And we're like so willing. I guess this is kind of like part of like the male validation of like we're so willing to like a man comes in and is mediocre, like
Mm-hmm.
sprinkles a crumb of like effort to like ingratiate into this community and is like automatically rocketed to the top of it.
Yeah. Here's the thing, in my opinion. Like, this is the world that we live in. You are trained to seek male validation in much of the
Yeah.
world as you grow up. But if you're an adult, you're also, there's a point in life where you're supposed to unpack some of that. I believe that there's just this level to which, like, first of all, the only thing that I can think that it comes from, like this open door for these male influencers, right? Like this need, like and the publishing does reinforce this, right? Like, that's why that guy got like a big deal. Like,
Right.
they, you know, I'm actually honestly surprised that publishers don't work more with these influencers, but this does remind me of like the stories. I wasn't even reading romance at that point in time, but like when Lothair by Cressley Cole, one of my favorite
Mm.
books, came out, they sent Cressley on a book tour, which at one point apparently had the model from the book
Yeah,
on
he
the
like
tour, you
traveled
know?
around the country with her. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing, like whatever, you know, but get your bag on everybody's level. But the publisher wouldn't do that if there wasn't a degree of like, oh, this will really knock their socks off. Like, I'm kind of
Yeah.
surprised that doesn't. I almost feel like the bookfluencer thing that's been happening is a slightly less above board version in which
Yeah.
the authors are not consenting to it most of the time,
Yeah.
and nobody's checking to make sure that anybody's safe. Like, nobody. The model, I've never heard bad stories, but like, you know, the model was hired officially and was going on a book tour officially. There was no like sneaking into book cons. There was no hitting
Yeah.
on women at book cons. Things that these bookfluencers and audiobook readers are often accused of doing. but that was still there. Is what, like, this isn't new, I guess is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. Like this hunger for like a physical embodiment of a character on the page
Yeah.
has often existed, and I think that that is driven by a degree to which like both, you know, just straight up horniness and also this desire. It's like it's almost perfect. The bookfluencers almost take it actually now it's all coming together. The model is the physical embodiment. The bookfluencers take it to a level to which they're both the physical embodiment and they are an actual real man who is telling you that
Yeah.
they like these books, they're into them, they're cool. So it's a
Yes.
double whammy, you know? Validation and embodiment.
Yeah. Yeah. And because it's like a, I completely lost the word that I just was gonna say, but I mean, it's like a double, no, Jesus. Okay, it'll come back to
Double
me.
stuff, double
I'm gonna go
penetration, double let's
the double
go.
stuffed
Yeah.
Oreo. No, I'm gonna
Okay.
pivot. It'll come back to me. I'm sure we'll keep talking. It'll come back to me. But it is the embodiment of like parasociality of like, oh, like, it's like it's even better than like your favorite hot male celebrity because like there's a greater chance that like you could
Yes.
meet this person in real life and like hit it off and like they're just the normal guy, and we take it and you see it being taken too far. There was like, I think last year, like, and I don't remember the author, like it was some con where an author had the male model like come, and this is not unique to that author, like this happens frequently where like they'll come to the event to like, cosplay as the character like at the behest of the author, right, and like take pictures with fans. And then like this author specifically was like talking about like he was like groped, he was like surrounded, he was like assaulted by all these quote unquote fans. And then when he like went back to his room because like understandably did not want to be there anymore, like fans like got upset. And like it's like this,
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting in a way because like I guess it proves, in a really fucked up way, it proves that the differences between the genders are not actually that strong. Because while we live in a patriarchy and men's entitlement to women, and again I'm speaking very broadly, very generally, men feel an entitlement to women's bodies, and that is a problem. The capacity for women to also feel entitlement to men's bodies is there, they just don't have the social power to impress that desire the way that men do. But when they are in environments like a romance, like adjacent book con, they take that opportunity to
Oh
to
yeah. Yeah.
wildly cross lines.
A lot of, in my opinion, a lot of gender is socialized, right? Like it is what we are taught.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, I'm not into this bioessentialism. Like I always, and I feel like it extends sometimes to a certain type of feminism where
Yeah.
people, this is why when people, what you just said is why when people say like, well, if we were in a matriarchy, everything would be better. And I'm like, not really, because if we were in a matriarchy, then a different gender would simply be socialized to be at the top of the food chain. And like,
Yeah.
a different gender would be oppressed. Might be different, but it wouldn't be the utopia that you think it would be. And I don't know if this is who you're referring to, but like in terms of the model, Wander is a popular, I believe his name is popular romance novel model.
I don't know. I
He
I did not
Yeah.
retain any of like the details from, I just remember that was
I
like a thing
yeah.
that happened.
I don't know if this is who it was, but I do know that like he's modeled for a lot of like he modeled for Sarah Kate's the final book in her Salacious Player Club, no, second to final book in her Salacious Player Club series, in which he's an older gentleman with like gray hair who is very, very
Mm-hmm.
good looking. You'll see if you look up like a cover that's supposed to be like a daddy book and it's just like a
Mm-hmm.
hot man on the cover, there's a decent chance it's him.
That it's
I
him.
have seen stuff. Yeah, I've seen some of the comments when an author has posted pictures of him. Some of the comments that I've read are genuinely, it's not just embarrassing, it's like you are being gross. Like you're being,
It's
if it's like an
disturbing.
author
Yeah.
posting, yeah, like it'll be like an author being like, oh hey, I ran into my friend today, and it's just then a selfie and people being like, also sometimes just being outright rude to the author, like being like, get out of there, like that type of. But it's like, you know, here's the thing, like I have seen women behave better at strip clubs than I've seen than some of these like book cons. Like I am dead serious. Like it is like, and not that women can't misbehave at strip clubs, but there is a point where I am almost like,
Yeah.
are you, is this something to where like people are, they're not, they don't consider themselves the types of women that would go to that type of thing, that would interact with male sex workers who are dancing? You know what I mean? Like, are you the type, is that the thing that like you feel like you aren't, you wouldn't do that, but you would grab a model at a book con because it's books? Like, I do think that there, and that's
Yeah.
not everybody. I think that some women are doing both, but I do think that there is somewhat of a phenomenon in book spaces to where women who are otherwise, like we know this, their dark romance has a huge, and I say this as somebody who reads dark romance
Yeah.
has a huge conservative viewership, I mean readership, in which
Yeah.
these are probably women who go to church every Sunday, who are very politically conservative, who would say, you know, I don't look at any man but my husband, like that sort of thing, and are all buttoned up. But the books, I think almost, it's like, it's okay if it's a book. It's not
Yeah.
real. Even when real
Yeah.
people are involved, you know?
Yeah. You know, we you talked about earlier, like with the Cressley Cole stuff, about how, the male model and the like the physical embodiment of like our favorite romance heroes. Like that is nothing new. But it goes even farther like back than that when we think of Fabio.
Yeah.
Like, you know who Fabio is because he made a
One word.
name for
Yeah.
himself. Like, Fabio is like Beyonce. He's like Madonna. He's like,
Yeah.
he's like
Yeah.
Prince. Like, you know what I mean? He has achieved the level of notoriety of being a one name, like, you know,
Yeah.
and that's what he's known for. That is all Fabio really has ever done,
Mhm.
like, of note, is be a male model on 80s and 90s bodice rippers.
Now. He has done an album. There was a
I
line
said
you
of
should
note.
call. Yeah, no, but you're right. And like I listened, I believe it was Reformed Rakes. That podcast did a really good little episode, or several parts. It might have been on Fabio. But I believe that Fabio in the past has expressed like, and Fabio, by the way, y'all, he's very politically conservative. Fabio
Yeah,
is
no, we don't
not
like
sex
Fabio.
positive. We don't
Yeah.
like Fabio, but Fabio can be unlikable and still a victim. Fabio, Fabio, I think, has expressed that he has had weird, like, I guess what I'm saying is
Yeah.
that Fabio is actually very sexually conservative by all accounts, and he's like said like, oh, I've had some odd, like, women have been weird towards Fabio, which is like, yeah, no, I'm not surprised. Like, of course people have been weird towards Fabio,
Yeah.
and there is a level to which like sometimes I wonder if this also overlaps with like people's refusal, and I mean this also applies to some authors, to sort of accept that like when you're writing explicit romance and you're promoting explicit romance in a way that sort of does engage with like the gaze of like the female gaze and like the sexuality of the book, you are sort of engaging in a level of sex work. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
are getting into that. Like people are, and that's not. And I'm very pro sex worker on every level. I think that it should be
Mhm.
acknowledged because I think that maybe people would be a little bit safer if you're admitting that part of the reason why these male models show up is that it sort of creates an
Yeah.
extra layer of titillation. Maybe you'll take it more seriously.
Yeah.
Maybe because these people do need to be protected. Like they do. I don't care
Yeah.
if they're men, if they're dicks like Fabio. Like you still need, you
Right.
have to make sure that they're not being violated. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I would be curious to hear, and obviously this is only really ever gonna would ever be like anecdotal, but like the difference between someone like Fabio's experience and the like models and influencers of today, and whether like
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
presence of social media has ramped up that harassment in a way. Like, again, like obviously Fabio did and probably still does like encounter weirdos, but like, is it to the extent that modern contemporary like representatives do? And it's like interesting just in terms of like a internet versus real life behavior thing, because I mean we've all seen this, right, where people are a lot more willing to like act a certain way and speak a certain way like on an internet when they're kind of whether they're literally anonymous or not, but like when they're like anonymized by like a screen, right? Like it's a psychological thing. Like it's been studied,
Yes. Yeah.
right? That like
Yeah.
people like think differently about like themselves and how they relate to others when they're doing it through the internet. And there's always been a separation up until recently between like real life and the internet happenings. Like they're like crossover is rare, right? There's like it's a lot more, it was a lot more common to have like two separate identities. And now we're seeing like this like bleeding over into like bringing the internet into real life in a
Mm-hmm.
way that's really harmful. Like, yeah, it's just like an interesting development, I guess, of
Yeah.
like just the more it's more development of like just like how much more intertwined the internet is with like our lives, right? Like we've kind of started to cross the barrier. Like there used to be a like a fuzzy line, but a line, and now that line's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the it's connected to like the AI psychosis thing, right? Where it's like
Right.
people are just when I think of that the PB Squammer guy, right? Like the thing that kicked
Mhm.
off this conversation. When I look at how people talk about him and I look at how people talk about those books, and I think I some of the comments that I've seen are just so they talk like they know him and they don't. They talk like there is like a level like people were apparently like pushing Nevessa Allen like he should play Josh in a movie. He should this is a random guy. This is not an actor. This is a dude.
And honestly, like, no hate. I know we're not commenting on people's physical appearance, but like a very mid man. Like I
Yes,
don't
yes.
see it. Personally, not my taste.
He's not my taste. I think and I will tell y'all right now, if you want a man who looks very similar to him to talk to you about your spicy books, all you have to do is make the mistake of mentioning that you like romance novels on your Hinge profile, and you'll have like 20 of them, and you won't enjoy the experience at all.
I'll do you one better. Go on a on public transit in a metropolitan area with a romance novel and read it.
Mhm.
And oh boy. Oh boy, will you get many
Yes.
conversations that you don't want to be a part of.
This is part of why, and I'm trying to say this in a kind way because we all have our anxieties, we all have our mental. God knows I know this. One thing that really bothered me actually, when he made his apology, is that he said that like PB Squammer, he said that he went online with his like ADHD brain or something. And as somebody with ADHD,
No,
does not give
no,
you a license to be a dick. It really
no.
doesn't. So, or to be unprofessional. I
Any
have
sort of
ADHD and I go to my
mental, no,
professional job every day.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really frustrating. Any sort of like
Yeah.
mental neurodivergence, mental
Oh yeah.
illness, like nothing gives you an excuse to be an asshole. Like
Yes.
in some circumstances, like say you suffer from bipolar disorder and you had a manic phase and now you're in a depressive episode and you did
Yeah.
things in your manic phase, like it's an explanation, but it
Yes.
still doesn't mean that you are absolved.
And you still have to take responsibility and
Yeah.
like even despite that. So there is a level to which I feel like that's, you know, put whatever alleged around this, but my opinion is that people using that feels ableist to me. That
Yeah.
feels insulting. It feels like, oh, I couldn't control myself because of my ADHD, and I'm like,
No.
no.
It's infantilizing. Yeah.
Yes, it's infant. That's a good way of putting it. There is a degree to which I feel like people are not creating a level of skepticism. They are not approaching these men with and I'm like, is this the way that you treat every man that you meet in real life? Are you not talking to enough people? Like, I don't want to judge people, but I'm
Mm,
saying this we're in a post-COVID society. People have been much more isolated than they were in the past. I'm trying
yeah.
not to come from a judgmental perspective, but I am saying that like if somebody if and I believe that men can read romance, write romance, and
Yeah,
regardless
absolutely.
of sexuality, like you can be a safe, good person. You should be. You should hold yourself to that standard. But if you have experienced talking to dudes in real life about these types of books, you will very quickly be able to realize that there are a lot of people who, honestly, in my personal experience, this is anecdotal, it is almost more of a red flag when they're like, I'm so into that. I'm like, let me talk to you about it. I love that. then versus being like, oh, that's not my thing, but like that's cool that you like that. It is better to have respect and, not a hobby, like not a
Mm-hmm.
super big interest, than somebody who is
Mm-hmm.
essentially faking an interest in order to get into your pants. And I think that some of these guys, they're not faking an interest in order to get into your pants unless they go to cons and try to hit on you, but they
Yeah.
are faking an interest to get your money. And it is ultimately transactional either way. It
Yeah.
is not genuine, and I do feel like there are women who need to hear that, like, baby, you need to be a little bit more discerning, and maybe you should also look at why you aren't being discerning, and perhaps you're not being discerning because you just need this man to tell you that what you like is cool
Yeah.
and good. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Sorry.
mean, that
Like,
brings us into the male validation. And I remembered the word
yeah.
I was going to use. And it's that men in romance spaces, particularly like white cis straight
Hmm.
men, are novelties.
Yes. Oh, that's such a good word.
They are
Yes.
rare. And again, that is not to say that men of any ilk, of any genre, are not welcome in the romance space. Like they
Of
absolutely
course.
are. I am never, you will never hear me say, I have said it in the past, in the future, now and in the future, you will never hear me say that like romance is for women only. We learn, we grow.
Just let me give you a little um to really verify that we have been recently reading a book by a man. So, Allison means that.
It's true. I've had a male romance on like Timothy Janowski was on this
Yeah.
podcast. So there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
It's sincere.
yeah, so like men are welcome, but they are not common. Cishet men are not common in the
Certainly not
romance
cishet men in
space.
the
And
romance space. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we do not have the room. We do not have the time to go into all the reasons that that is and all the
Yes,
reasons
yes,
that
yes.
romance is still, regardless of the actual gender and sexuality makeup of its participants, from an external like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
perceived as something for women.
Can I add an asterisk because
Yes.
something just hit me while you're talking?
Yeah.
They're not visibly common because there are
Yes.
plenty of them who still write with under pen names,
Yes.
and then there are
Yes.
also, perhaps most importantly, the guys who are signing the checks at the top of these publishing companies are often still
Yes.
cis men, and that does matter and it does influence what you're able to get
Yes.
your hands on. So
Yes.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. Yes, you are right. I will argue that those men probably are not reading the romance they sign the
Oh,
checks
they are not. They're
for.
not. They're not. They're
But
which makes it
yes,
worse.
in
Which
terms
makes
of
it worse.
participating
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
community. And so when one pops up and is like, hey girl, like
Mm-hmm.
let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about the latest Akatar book. Let's talk about Colleen Hoover. Let's talk about Abby Jimenez. Like, you know what I mean? Let's talk about Emily Henry. Like, let's go. It's so the immediate instinct is like, oh my gosh, like this thing that I
Yeah.
at best get an eye roll at and at worst get like openly called stupid for liking by most of the men in my life is like, here's this man who is a potential partner like in a theoretical
Yeah.
universe who like likes the thing that I do. And I do understand that like sort of gut reaction of like, here is this person who traditionally like who is from a group that traditionally looks down on the thing that I like, saying that
Yeah.
they now that like I'm that it's actually cool that this to like this thing.
Yes.
I
Yes.
understand that. But like you said earlier, you sort of need to unpack like, okay, so why why are you then placing that man's opinion on this pedestal? Why are you allowing him to control how you feel about this space that has nothing to do with him at the end of the day? And yeah, it's just, yeah, they're novelties. They're interesting. There's not many of them. And so it's easy to break out. And I mean, that's every fucking social media guru is like, find your niche. And it's really easy for
Yes.
like cishet
Yes.
men, especially cishet white men, to find their niche in the romance space. Like, as long as you can like, and I don't want to accuse every single one of like these men
Of
of like
course. Of course.
of faking it.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there are many people who love romance, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to like make a bookstagram or a BookTok account
No.
as a
No. No. No.
cishet
No.
white man who wants to talk about your love of romance. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah. Yeah.
inherently wrong with that. But yeah, it's so much easier to find. It's already easier as a cishet white man to find
Yes.
success. And so you put that in a space that is quote unquote underrepresented with people like you. And
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
human psychology, or like, it's just like this desire to like prop up the like new and interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. There are 1,000 women like me on Bookstagram.
Mm-hmm.
If thousands, really. There aren't probably that many dudes who are also straight and cis saying what I'm saying. So there is, yeah, it is. And I guess that's like that is what, because I'm very much not a for women by women person with romance. Like I'm
Yeah.
very much about like, especially like getting queer men more incorporated into that
Yes.
space. But like it is frustrating for me to see like this subpar content that's like not even to be this is where, and this is not appearance judging, this is literally me thinking of the editing. These thirst traps are not that good. And really, y'all, like you need to like, I'm telling you, if this is what you're like, if truly I'm reaching out and saying right now, if this is something to where you need a visual just for purely sexual purposes, there are other ways. There are other ways you can like you take care of yourself. Don't you don't have to give money and influence to a dude who's literally just trying to like, who doesn't even have a lot of the time the I would say the dignity of calling it sex work. You know what I mean? Like I give much more credit to men who are like, I am posting my thirst traps on OnlyFans than somebody who's
Yeah.
like, oh, I just love your books so much, babe, and like I'm gonna post
Yeah.
like I like just frankly like so much more respect for somebody who's like, I'm here to get you off and I will be completely honest about that and that's why I'm posting this video. The idea that like it's somebody who's like snaking in to make it respectable by cloaking it under like this book talk thing, that just
No.
adds an extra layer because I just feel like it is there's I think that's why I keep on coming back to the idea of sex work because I just feel like it's a way of people getting around the idea that like sex work is dirty when you're
Mm-hmm.
ultimately giving the same thing for the same reason a lot of the time. I'm not saying it's why
Yeah.
every woman is into these guys, but I do see based on the comments, yes, that like a lot of women
Yeah.
are
A lot of
literally
the
getting off to
reach.
these guys. And I'm like, why is it okay with this guy, but it's not okay to pay some guy on OnlyFans? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why is
Yeah.
it doesn't like take the money out of it? I know it can be expensive, even though it's probably honestly not some of them. But like, why is it feels like this cloak of books are almost giving these guys a cloak of respectability.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I really hate
Yeah.
that. It feels prudish and weird.
At the same time that like the books themselves are not respected.
Mhm,
And the authors themselves are not respected. Like at the same, it's like this
yes.
this horrible I don't, I'm sure there's like a term for like when two opposite things are true at once. I don't, a Schrodinger's cat.
Paradoxic
Yeah,
paradox.
it's a
Yeah.
paradoxical, yeah, like
Yeah.
Schrodinger's cat kind of thing. Like two things are true at once,
Many things can be true at
where
once,
they
and it's many
contradict each
things are
other.
true here.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
It makes me feel so gross though.
To bring the money like back into it, like capitalism is at work here. Unfortunately, like the
Yes.
capitalism and monetization of it all cannot be ignored.
Hmm.
About why, not only why like the creators themselves want to do this, but why it's being pushed, why you have stuff going back to the beginning of the episode like a book boyfriend bash. And I don't know anything about that
Yeah.
organization or
Yeah,
that
I don't
group
know
or
anything about
what that
that.
event
It's just that, but
was.
we're talking about the concept of that having an appeal, like just the name. Yeah, that's and it being populated, like influencers being guests as embodying the
Yes.
book boyfriend. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And again, if you want to use your hard-earned money to go somewhere where someone cosplays as your favorite book character, that is go with God. Like that is so up, it is
go.
your money. As long as no one is being harmed, I don't care like what you're
Yeah,
doing.
absolutely.
But that thing exists because they know that they can make money off of you.
Yes,
And
yes.
we unfortunately live in a world in which things do not pop off anymore unless somebody is making a profit.
I I think that the litmus test that some people should think of, and I will say this as somebody I have known. I have a couple different experiences of dudes who genuinely weren't being weird reading romance novels in my lifetime. One was when My dad and my brother both tried to read Twilight because they were like, I think actually with my brother, he was trying to talk to girls. My dad was like, what's my daughter reading? And I remember he said, I see why women like Edward Cullen. It's because he listens. And I was like, wow, dad, if only you could like, apply that to your life. But like he didn't finish the book. But it was something where I think he genuinely was trying to be like, let me connect with my daughter. And then the second time was when there's a guy that I know, who reads Emily Henry and really does like Emily Henry. And he's just like, I think he does, like, he likes a rom com. He likes to read Emily Henry. I don't think he reads like a ton of romance at
Yeah,
large, and it's totally cool. And then I
that's
know a
fair.
guy who, yeah, I know a guy who wanted to try to understand, and all of these are like not in a very personal context, to be clear. These are not men I have gone out with. One guy who was like trying to understand romanticy, and so he read Kushiel's Dart to try to like be like, oh, that's one of the early ones, right? And I was like, you know what? You're not wrong, but also it's not like exactly that. And he was like, cool, good exercise, well written, not for me, and kept going. But like none of that was creepy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, though, I need y'all to ask yourselves, like, how many dudes do you really know in your life who are just stumbling upon these books and like picking them up in Barnes and Noble with zero context of what they
No.
could be? You're almost like in a way when people are like, ah, yes, I believe that he just walked into Barnes and Noble, had no idea what ACOTAR was, and like started. Do you think these guys
Fuck
are dumb? Like,
you.
yeah, yeah, like
Fuck
stop.
you.
It's like, do you really like give them more credit? Frankly, these aren't like complete. Some of this I think comes from like the infantilization of men, where they're like, yeah, these babes in the woods just found these books, and like they didn't think. Then they discovered that there's money in it, and it's like these are not like these men have been born in the world. They grew up. And
Uh,
I need people to just ask themselves, does that sound legit? And if you have a vague question in your mind, then ask, could they make money off of this? And if the answer is yes, then perhaps they are. Or perhaps they want to. It's that
perhaps the
simple.
purpose. And listen, and again, like we've said it, like you are not you're not a bad person for wanting, for even setting out to start something
Yes.
on social media with the aim of making money on it. Like we see
Sure.
that with like kids, like it's
Well,
like such a trend where like you ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, and so many of them are saying like, I want to be a YouTuber, like I want to be an influencer. Like that is a legitimate career path. I am not demonizing anyone. I would love one day to make money from. I used to make money before TikTok changed how they like monetize shit. Me, my sister on the podcast TikTok used to make like several $100s a month just from like
yeah.
fucking views, and that was great. I am not. If someone would like to
Yeah.
advertise on this podcast, I will not say
Feel free.
no. Reach
Yes.
out to us. But yeah, it's kind of like, it's not, it doesn't make something grimy or morally wrong to want to do something for money, but you do have to keep that in the back of your mind, particularly when it's someone who is involved in a community that is not usually for them. You should
Yes.
just stop and ask yourself why. Like and it's like, this is any time in your life, anytime a deal seems too good to be true, anytime you encounter a situation that you're like, wait, why is someone doing that? Are they really doing this from the goodness of their own heart? Like, why would you do this? You have to think, okay, how does this person make money? Like, how is this person benefiting from it? And it's a very cynical way of existing, but I think it's a necessary way of existing in such an online climate. Like, I think, don't do that as much with like people you meet in real life. Like, don't automatically assume like the worst
Yeah.
intentions. But we have to keep it in the back. We're in late stage capitalism,
Yes.
baby. Like, you have to
Yes.
think everything like, okay, what's in it for them?
Does the cam girl really like your grandpa that much, or does she like the money that he sends? Does the it's there's just a level to which like and by the way, that's no shade to her, but there is like
No.
there I think almost I think that really what this thought process keeps coming back around for me is like these dudes, especially the ones who do like genuinely like harmful, like sexual misconduct related things, stuff like that. assholes. But I'm a little bit
Yeah.
more annoyed in terms of like on like a broader level. I'm a little bit more annoyed with women being like easy marks because I'm like, good God, man. Like, is that because like is this finally equality? Where I'm like, are we like these dudes have been spending decades, centuries getting milked and like learning, not a fun way, learning that like people are able to like get their money. And now I'm like, are we just finally catching up and being like, oh, maybe he doesn't really like my personality. Maybe he does like the $20 that I just Venmoed him for that weird cosplay video. Like, is that maybe what he, it's like, that's, I almost feel like, I'm just like, come on, ladies. Like, let's have some dignity. Like, let's realize, and there's nothing, again, there isn't anything wrong with paying for, as long as it's all consensual and like safe and stuff like that. There's not anything wrong with paying for something that gives you pleasure, but like, just know that like this is not a relationship that is not transactional. Just know that like somebody
Yeah.
is looking for your money. Just know that like, and that doesn't mean that they don't like you as a person genuinely, but like there is just there's a level of transactional and transactionality that's happening. And I think that if women were maybe just a little bit more, and this is not all our fault, you do have to like deconstruct some societal
Yeah.
training. But I
Not
think that if
victim
you're a little bit more,
blaming.
yes, yeah, we're well, we're not victim blaming, but I think some of these people are less victims than others, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like for sure. But I think that we're not doing that, but I am saying that like for your own good and for the good of like your community, I think you need to unpack some things and say like, do you want a friendship with this guy or are you attracted to him? Are you watching his videos just because you're so into these books? Or are you watching his videos because you're so into these books and also it gets you off? Like, is this like what is actually happening here and like what are you exchanging for? Because I think that if you're
Hmm.
really honest with yourself about like why you're into this stuff and like what is fanish behavior and what is fanish behavior that's also a bit sexualized, then I think that
Hmm.
maybe it'll be easier to understand that like the relationship is transactional. And that's
Yeah.
again, it's okay. If everybody knows what they're doing, it's okay. But I think that a lot of women,
Hmm.
I think that there are probably a lot more men who know that they're paying a woman online to make them feel like they're having a girlfriend experience, then there
Yeah.
are women realizing that even if money isn't actually changing hands, they're still essentially directly changing hands. They're still essentially
Yeah.
paying for a boyfriend experience. Like if you're
Yeah.
paying for him to like sign your book or whatever, like what are you really paying for here?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think that it takes like one, like we just need to be more comfortable with acknowledging like the connection between sex work and sexy media.
Yeah.
But also like I think there's like an element to it that came up while you were talking was like, I think we kind of accept certain forms of things that are for pleasure, for entertainment, like movies or music, that like people that do them are in it for the money, like that money, that getting paid is like an element to it, in the way that we are not quite there yet with books. There's still this idea that like books are art, TM, and it's like, why would an author want to make money off of that? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, it's my special relationship. Yeah, with the author, with the creator, with the
yeah.
cosplayer, like whatever. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
I mean, it's also, it's the way that there's so much more of a relationship between authors and readers, like one to one, than there is with most actors and sing, like other people who create art and like have relationships with fans.
Yeah, no, you're right. But like something that just hit me when we were talking, I think that there is more of a connection between a songwriter, a la one Taylor Swift,
Mm-hmm.
and a novelist and the fan relationship between those two things than there is between like a fan and an actor. Because I think that I remember
Mm-hmm.
talking to somebody, I love music. I've never been somebody who's been obsessed with a lot of artists though in terms of music. A friend though, because I was never somebody who really, maybe until more recently, but I was never somebody who fully understood like the concept of like an album that saved my life. But like a friend of mine was like, no, literally, this album did keep me, like really took me off the edge because it was by a singer songwriter and they connected so much with the lyrics because that was so personal. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like writing is similar
Yeah.
in that way because you feel like you're more connected. An actor is reading lines. I'm not saying that's not beautiful and important in art,
Yeah.
but I feel like on
They're
both
not
with those
writing them.
songwriters and yeah, yeah, you feel like you're tapping into somebody's brain and like they're understanding you and connecting with you and like I don't. again, I think there's like something with me that like I enjoy these things, but I don't know that I feel that level of
Yeah.
connection as much.
Yeah, me too.
For the most part.
Yeah.
There have been books more recently I think that I've connected with more, but on that type of extra level. But I wonder if that is part of why like this divide that you're saying sort of exists is like
Yeah.
the parasociality is almost baked into like the brain when they think that they're reading a
Yeah.
confessional in a way.
Yeah. And I mean, that's like you know, go like you mentioned Taylor Swift. Like that's the reason that Taylor Swift is as big as she is to an extent. Like there are a lot of factors. Is that she specializes in this like confessional storytelling. She has cultivated like she used to have like secret sessions where she would like play the album live for her fans, like in her fucking house. Like, and that was
Yeah.
like not that many albums ago.
No,
Like she
no.
was already doing like stadium tours by that point.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting because you bringing up the singer songwriter, like I think we've seen this in music over the past, like in this century, in that the expectation that someone is writing the songs that they are singing, even though those are two different skills. And I am perfectly like, I really think people should be allowed to like just be a talented
Yes.
singer or just be a
Oh,
talented writer and not
100%.
have to be both.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that used to be the norm. Like you did
Mhm.
not expect Michael Jackson to have written any of his songs. Like Madonna certainly didn't write any
Opera
of her songs. Like
opera singers, they didn't sing. Yeah,
opera,
yeah, no, no,
no,
no.
like
The opera singers sang, they did not write. You
yeah,
know?
you were not expecting that. And then at some point in like the early aughts, as
Yeah.
people like Taylor Swift came up, and I'm not like blaming Taylor Swift for this
No.
switch, but like she is a big face in this wave that we are seeing. It became expected, and it was like I remember like being in the YouTube comment sections of like One Direction and being like, oh yeah, this like other band, this like British band called like McFly, whatever, like wrote this song for them. And people have been like, what? Like jumping, being like, oh my God, like how could you dare suggest that they didn't write these songs themselves, that they are a band created by like a corporation to
That means it
like
can't be
sell a
art.
product. Like
Yeah.
what? Like,
Yeah.
and like and so now we see like now like there is no discussion. Like
Yes.
the biggest artists that we have today are artists that also write their own song. You have Taylor Swift, you have Chapel Roan, you have Olivia Rodrigo, you have I think Gracie Abrams also like writes her own song, like at least in part, like they write it with collaborators,
Sabrina
but like
Carpenter writes her
yeah,
songs.
Sabrina
Yeah, yeah,
Carpenter,
yeah.
they have the songwriting credit. Like it's like unthinkable that you wouldn't have like a songwriting credit on your
And
music.
God forbid that anybody notices that there are often several other people in the songs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Like nobody's
Nobody
gonna
ever
talk about
acknowledges that.
that.
Although they do like to
Yeah,
point out that what is it? Speak Now by Taylor Swift like was entirely written by her. Like there's no
yeah,
other
yeah,
whatever. But
yeah,
so they like to point when you've definitely done it alone, but not when other people helped you.
yeah, yeah.
Which again, it's a collaborative process. The same way that books, but like it's even less acknowledged with books because books are also a collaborative process. And I say this as both a writer as and an editor. Like there were some books that I edited where like it was like minor change. Like I really did not have, but like there are also books where like I helped outline that shit. Like I rewrote whole passages. I rearranged stuff as part of my editor job. And I'm not on that book cover because
Hmm.
I don't think I should be. This is not me saying that like I should get credit for writing those books. Like that's silly.
Yeah, yeah.
But like eh, books are like there's this parasociality and then also like of like kind of this the like soul genius of like it not being collaborative and it's like eh, the personalization. I don't think that's the right word. The like individualism of I don't know, like of author. Like I think that carries over into the book boyfriend thing, like where you're kind of like associating all of this like big wide swath
Yes.
of art and content with like one person. And like obviously again in the case of an author, like yes it is one author that wrote everything, but there's also like 20 other people that were like helping the author the whole time, you know, like, and there's, yeah, this like the like soul
No.
genius writing in a cave like idea has transferred over.
Yeah, yeah, genius. Like we're all really, and I don't know if this is entirely, this is definitely a Western perspective, which
Yeah.
is what I know more about with my art history degree. But like that's something like we've always been obsessed, right, with the idea of this like genius that like just comes to it. Like
Yeah.
when, all the grand maestros of the Renaissance were commissioned, right? And like when you think like the idea that the Mozart just everything came to him and it poured out of his brain, he didn't have to edit it, like things like that. I think that this is like it's almost like a trickle down but it sort of it strips away because there's very little respect for like women artists with romance. It's like they take away the genius idea, but they cling to this idea that like everything just flowed out of you and it came out of you, and like it's all completely like nobody else worked on it, which means that it's completely honest. And nobody, like, God forbid you mentioned that you wrote to market in order to sell books. Like, God forbid I mean, we've seen this happen at like book events where authors are asked, like, I think that this is part of it, is like when you get the questions that are like, do you and your husband do this?
Oh
Like,
my
do the
God.
books
Like,
do
is
the
this
things that you wrote about?
inspired
And
by your sex life?
yes, yes. And it's like, or authors who are put on the spot to be like, oh, did this book about an incredibly depressed, suicidal woman falling in love, did this personally connect with you? And it's like, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe she
None of
was
your
like,
business.
just, yeah, none of your business.
That's
Like, you don't
between
have to
me and
know.
my psychiatrist. Thanks.
Yes, yes. And it's the idea that you have to have that connection to make it more personal. And
Yeah.
like, this reminds me too that like Navessa Allen, weeks ago, maybe months ago at this point, I remember when because I follow her on Threads, she has a lot of great takes. She posted something where she was like, she did not name names, but she basically said like, that she essentially, due to her like don't trust every cosplayer or guy signing her books, she worked with a couple of them in the beginning a few times and it was her biggest regret and she'll never do it again. And so I think that that was like she clearly was talking about guys like this, and she was giving her readers a warning, which I think is actually she did not need to, she did not owe them that. That is a very honorable thing to do. She is not at fault
Mm-hmm.
for having worked with people who then turned out to be scammy and
Right.
slummy and scummy,
Yeah.
like that's not her fault. None of this is her fault, but I imagine that it does really suck to see people identify your work, which we have no idea how much she
Mm-hmm.
personally identifies with these books. We don't know how much of this is like her just being like a really talented writer who's able to write about things. Like the
Yeah.
idea of only write what you know is bullshit.
No.
We have no idea
No.
like what
Like,
you
I don't
know.
need
Like
to know. Like, I don't
I
need to,
don't you don't
like,
need to know.
not like,
No.
obviously, like, take that with a grain of salt. Like, I feel like you have to have fucking disclaimer to everything on the internet. But, like,
Yeah.
when, if someone's writing about a particular marginalization, if someone's writing like an
Of
autistic
course, of
character, I'm not
course.
saying that only an
I don't
autistic
consider that.
author
Yeah, yeah.
needs to write an
Yes.
autistic character, but like, I do
Yeah.
want to know, it is helpful for me to know, if
Yeah.
they do
Yeah.
share that. But yeah, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about like you don't have to be into you should of course go with care, but I don't think you need to be into mask talk to write
Yeah.
about mask talk. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can learn enough and understand enough and empathize enough, because part of being a human being is supposed to be empathy and like having an idea of under some amount of understanding for things that aren't your direct experience.
That's the essence of readership. That's the
Yes,
essence of
yes, yes.
reading, is reading
Yes.
stories that you don't personally relate to but find a commonality in being human.
Yes, yes, she shouldn't have to like this should not have to be a confessional in order for it to be a good book. And it sucks to me that it's like it almost has become, and I think this is why we're seeing a lot of authors also retreat off of the internet. Imagine if it's already bad enough that people are saying that because you wrote this, I'll use Lights Out as an example, this mask talk, dark romance comedy, you must be into the idea of dudes breaking into girls' houses. But now imagine that they're going to transfer that onto you must be co-signing these weird guys who are using your material to
Yeah.
make money. Like that's another dimension of this that I think really really sucks, is these dudes are getting paid money that the authors aren't making, for one thing, even though it's all
Yeah.
about their work. But also like it's like, even take the money out of it, probably a lot of these authors are like, I hate that he's able to make that somebody like that is able to make money off of my work just because he sucks. And people are
Right.
going to think that that's like me, that I am like the head of this and the money is trickling
Yeah.
down to him. It blows.
Yeah. It's corrupt. Men ruin everything. No, not really.
Not all men.
Not all men, but a lot of
Yeah.
men. A lot of
Because I've already
men.
seen like people online who have nothing to do with any of this, who don't read these books, who aren't in this community, of course, shocker, who are coming out and instead of being like, "Oh, he's scummy for this," and the women who are funding him, the readers who are encouraging his behavior, they suck for that. Like you,
Mm-hmm.
instead of attributing that to either of them, they're saying basically like, "Oh, well, he just saw an opportunity with these slutty little books, these
These
trash books
stupid
that she
women.
wrote."
Yeah.
Yeah, these stupid women who write them, like she like, never would have existed if not for her. And it's kind of like cool. So ultimately, as always happens, this boomerangs back to like I've already seen people also defending this with being like, well, he sucks, but like so many authors are also problematic. And it's like, what does that have to do with him sucking?
Again,
Like
that's not what we're talking about.
it's not what we're talking about. And also it's like, okay, if you want to get serious, let's talk about like tell me exactly why this author welcomed this into her home because I've yet to see anybody explaining to me how this author caused this problem.
Yeah.
So, but they just still, it's like they have a gut instinct to blame it on her. And
Mm-hmm.
it disgusts me. And I think that's just
Yeah.
like, it's like, oh, it really does go back to this idea that like it must all be about these men and they must be at the
It
center
must
of
be about the
everything and
men.
they must be the victims and the heroes and all of
Yeah.
it all
Yeah.
together.
I mean, it's like you see that even like go, I mean, this is like slightly off topic, but like even just with like, the quote unquote AI witch hunts where you have like white cishet male authors being like, yeah, I used AI like openly in fucking like New York Times articles and nobody says nobody,
Yeah,
it's a blip. And then you have fucking hit pieces, usually against women and then specifically people of color
yeah.
for like, it's misogyny, it's racism, it's misogynoir. Like,
Wasn't that just didn't that story just break where like a very traditionally conventionally attractive white guy who'd written like
yeah,
a book popular amongst women, like who admitted yes that he used AI, he got a book deal for something else, and like yeah, this is just on the heels of multiple people of color being accused of AI,
yeah,
using AI, having money taken out of their hands, and if you use AI, that sucks. I hate that. But like equal opportunity. Don't cancel one person's book deal over it and then give another guy a book deal after he
yeah,
already admitted he used it.
yeah,
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying in the end is be more discerning. And also whether you have been on yonder dating apps recently or not, I want you to think about if you haven't been on them, what it would be like to be on them. And I want you to think about these random people online and give them the same jaundiced eye that you should give anybody that you're meeting on dating apps because everybody is not everybody. Now I'm like now my issues come out. Not everybody is looking for something from you, but like like you were like earlier you were like don't approach everybody as if they're out to get you and I was like right, yeah,
no,
that's a
and
good
I'm
idea.
saying that also in like the like
Yeah.
idealized theoretical sense because I too
Yes,
have the
yes.
problem of like assuming being like, what do you actually want?
I'm like, what do you want from me?
Are you actually trying to kill me? Like,
Yes, no, same. But I do think it's worth saying. I think you should just, I don't know, not every relationship is transactional, but I do think it
yeah,
is worth sometimes checking on yourself and asking, like, am I in the midst? Because so many y'all, when you really think about it, and this is not, I have so many people in my life with whom I do not have a transactional relationship, but we
yeah,
in a capitalist society are trained to conduct these relationships without realizing it.
yeah.
And I think that it's worth asking yourself, like, if somebody's not just because he's not expecting you to sleep with him doesn't mean he doesn't expect something from you.
He doesn't want
And in this
something.
case, it could be financial support.
Yeah.
So,
And again, like there's nothing wrong with being in a transactional relation
no,
with having a transactional relationship. You just need to have your eyes open. And that's it. You got to go
yes,
in with your eyes open. And it's it like I feel like it harkens back to like the like romance novels set unrealistic expectations, me, like romance, like dark romance, like it's women saying they want to be raped,
Yeah, yeah,
me.
yeah, all
And it's,
that.
and you know, the main pushback against that is like, okay, but like women are capable of discerning between fact and fiction. And I just think that yes, that is absolutely still true, but there are some readers who are sometimes blur the lines and are not realizing that that's what they're doing, and you just take a step back, take a step back, go for a walk, take a nap, just ponder, just think.
I don't know, man. Sometimes a book should just be, I think there's also just a level to which I'm like, a book should just be a book and it doesn't need to be a massive expanded universe where you see everybody cosplaying this thing. That's why I'm very strongly against, listen, I'm going to be happy to see The Love Hypothesis. I really liked that book. But generally speaking, as much as I enjoy a good adaptation of a romance novel, I don't want any of my favorite books to be adapted into movies because
No.
I think that there's sometimes having a massive expanded universe is worse. Sometimes I think that maybe stop looking for all the reinforcement from random dudes, other readers. Sometimes maybe just pick up the book again. Like I will say, when we recently, like when I re-listened to Priest for this, like it was honestly a little cleansing to me to just be like, oh, all I'm doing is just listening to this book that I already know I love. I'm not looking, like I knew we would talk about it, but like that's just a single
Yeah.
conversation between two people who like the book. I didn't think, oh, I need to go make content for this. Oh, I need to like
Yeah.
seek out content. There's nobody who's like, I'm not looking for videos. I'm not looking for this. I'm not like, I'm just enjoying the book for what it is. And it felt so intimate in that way. And that was
Yeah.
so refreshing, you know?
Yeah.
Go back to
Yeah.
the intimate relationship with the book. And I leave that, like, whatever that means to you. I don't judge, like,
Yeah.
whatever, like,
Make it, but yeah, no, like make it personal in that
yeah,
way
yeah.
instead of parasocial. Make it personal, not
Yes.
parasocial.
Yes. That's a
There
good
we
way of
go.
putting it. You should put that on a t-shirt. Make it personal,
Wow.
not parasocial.
Life is good, TM. Or something.
Honestly, not a bad idea. Put it in the
Uh,
Etsy shop.
we'll add it.
I think that we can move on from book boyfriends. I think you can, you don't need a real boyfriend and you don't need a real anything. And you don't even need an imaginary one. You don't need any of that. I think that what you need is just like be kind to yourself.
Be your own book boyfriend.
Be your own book boyfriend. I am my own book boyfriend.
Yeah.
What is it's that share quote that like sometimes
Oh,
because like
mom, I am a rich man.
yes, I am only human, everyone. Like I'm not immune to my moments of deep loneliness and sorrow. But like when I am, I'm like it's like that Bridget Jones, that the first Bridget Jones movie when she like is I'm gonna make it out of this breakup and she's like on like she's like at spin class, she's like on the treadmill, she's like trying to clean up her life. But like that is essentially instead of doing all of that, I just like sobbingly read that share quote where she's like, "Mom, I'm a rich man." I'm like, "Be your own book
You
boyfriend."
go, Claire. You go, share.
Yeah, yes, it's like we really. I'm like, yeah, she speaks to me. I'm good. I am also my own rich man, except I'm not rich or a
Except I'm
man.
not rich. I'm not share, unfortunately.
I'm
But
not
I'd like to
Cher.
be.
I aspire to be. Yeah, I would love to be
I'd like
Cher,
to
but
be one day.
I'd like to be one day. But I do think that is like one of the honestly, it is like one of those quotes where like if you really, really, really feel like maybe you're like a little too about men, whether they're real or fictional in your life, I think that is sometimes good to like just you can do all this by yourself and read the book. Just read the book. It's totally cool to like get your joy however you get your joy, whether it's through like these cuddly scenes or something like that. But maybe it's better to find a way to do that by yourself than seeking it out through these cosplayers unless you know exactly what you're doing and exactly what it is.
Right. Like try make sure that at least some of your satisfaction is coming from yourself, not
Yes.
from these external sources. Hi,
Oh.
I'm Brene Brown.
That wasn't even where I was thinking of it. I was like, yeah, get your satisfaction yourself. That's right.
Hey, I've seen those vibrator companies pop up on a lot of romance authors like as like sponsored ads. So if you are from that one vibrator company,
I would do that so
be
fast.
redditonenight at gmail.com.
Yes. Oh my God. Just if you ever want to, that's when I say transactionality is fine.
That's
Promo
the kind of
code is fine.
transaction.
That's exactly. Listen, I could be bought so quickly. If people are turning you down, I will never turn you down.
I'm next in line. Put me in, coach. All right, listener. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for listening to this episode, this special episode. We'll be back in your earholes next week with Priest by Sierra Simone. So if you haven't already done a reread in preparation for the release of Devil, then get on that. You have another week. Congratulations. You can find the podcast at We Read It One Night on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and TikTok. We read it one night at gmail.com. You can find me at the Allison Finch on Instagram and Threads, mostly Instagram.
And I can be found at Difficult Woman Reads on Instagram and Threads. Equally both at this point, unfortunately. I'm sorry. It is what it is.
All right. Don't forget to leave a rating and review wherever you're listening, especially if you listen on Spotify and Apple. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends and family if you liked it. If you have a little extra money, speaking of transactional relationships, this podcast is free, but if you have extra room in your budget this month, you can buy us a coffee. You can purchase a book from the bookshop.org affiliate link in the description, and you can support your local indie, and also we get a small cut of that. And yeah, but the free way, review, rate and review, please. Godspeed, Comrades.
Bye.